Welcome back to the San Diego Opera Podcast. I'm Nick Revelis, and my guest today is the Duke of Mantua in our production of Rigoletto, tenor Scott Quinn.
Hi.
It's great to have you here.
Pleasure to be here.
And I can tell by the inflection in your voice. You're from Texas.
Yes, sir.
What part of Texas are you from?
Northeast. So it's so far east that all I can say is Shreveport, Louisiana is the closest big city.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so
okay.
I'm about 30 miles from Shreveport.
So tell us, how does a guy 30 miles out of Shreveport get into opera? How did that all start for
That
you?
is a very interesting question because I wanted to sing country music.
Of course.
But it started in high school. I'd always loved to sing in the church, and when high school came around, I was in the choir, and they had voice lessons available for like $15. So I was like, you know what? Everybody would like to sing better.
Yeah.
So I did a few voice lessons and realized, wow, there's something more than just a country twang in my voice. And it became something that I was just fascinated with. And this teacher convinced me to audition at Stephen F. Austin for the late, great David Jones and the other voice faculty. He ended up being my teacher, but the voice faculty of Stephen F. Austin, and got a small scholarship, but it was a scholarship. So
Wow.
I was like, you know what, I need to take advantage of this, and started singing opera from then on.
Wow. So you started with opera as
Yeah.
a freshman in college?
Yes, but
They gave you arias? What did they give you?
Well,
I'm fascinated
okay,
by this. What did they give you?
They gave me Per la Gloria. You know, that's a good token freshman one.
Is that from the Italian
Yeah,
song?
the hits.
Yeah, right. Right.
And the Songs of Travel, I forget the name of it, but I remember Nina being one of them. Tre giorni son che Nina.
Right.
I'll never forget it.
Yeah.
Because I had to do it 1,000 times.
So now, just so our audience understands, this is a collection of Italian art songs, many of them from the Baroque and early classic
Yeah.
period, that every voice student has to study. I never studied voice, but boy, as a pianist, I had to play those 1,000 times, right?
Oh yeah, because we had to do them 1,000 times because we weren't developed enough to sing,
Sure.
some of the heavier repertoire. I mean, even the lighter repertoire, just because
Right.
the technique wasn't, solidified yet.
But you recognized that there was something there.
Yes.
And that it was developable.
Absolutely, because, I developed a range further than I expected due to the voice teacher, and I noticed, okay, my voice goes higher than I thought, so maybe, because I was a bass baritone.
Yeah, I was going
in
to
high
ask you
school.
if you originally thought that you were a
Yeah,
tenor.
no, so that kind of, once I realized what technique was, then, I realized, okay, maybe I'm a tenor after all.
Let's move forward a few years.
Yeah.
What was your first big break and the first big role for you?
That's a tough one. There's a couple of instances that come to mind. My big break, I think, was take a moment to say that I got out of singing for a couple of years. I was in the oil and gas business as a landman, and just because I couldn't afford to sing and live, as a young singer, a lot of people go through that.
Sure.
But I just did this competition. I think my mom told me, she saw it in the newspaper. She's like, Shreveport Opera's having a competition. I was like, well, I mean, I'll do it if she asked me. So I was like, I'll try it. So, I hardly had any training at the time. I went over there, sang, I think, the Flower Song, De Me Volenti Spiriti, and won. I mean, and against people like from Manhattan School of Music and Juilliard, and I mean, this was a pretty respectable competition.
You had been away from singing for a couple of years,
so,
working in the oil fields.
So that was kind of my aha moment.
That's fascinating.
Like, okay, if I can be away from it and, just throw this together. I was drinking coffee and eating donuts, and everybody else was, sipping their water, which is what I do now. But I think it was just the attitude. I was just like, you know what, I'm just going to give it all I can and see what happens, and it was a break. Now, I think my big break was when I was an apprentice in Dallas, I did their competition too after that one, and I think I placed second in that. But Jonathan Pell at the time, who was the general director,
Right.
he saw something in me and asked me to be an artist in residence. So I was there for 2 years, mainly just doing bit roles and learning from watching other singers.
Right.
And that was a huge deal. But when I got to cover Greenhorn for the world premiere of Moby Dick.
Moby Dick.
Yes,
Yeah.
that was my big break, because that was when I got to sing for Patrick Summers as a cover run.
Right.
So all the
of
covers.
course, Patrick is the conductor at Dallas, and of course, and many other places.
Houston.
Oh, Houston.
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
yeah.
Right.
But he said, okay, maybe you need to audition for Houston studio, and I was like, okay. You know, I didn't know it was a huge deal, and he also said, and you might ought to audition for Marilla too, because you know they're kind of intertwined in somewhat. David Gockley and
right, that's
yeah,
San Francisco.
But it was the perfect transition for me. I auditioned for both, got into both, and went straight from Marilla to Houston. So singing that cover run of Greenhorn and Moby Dick was kind of what led me into the big, you know, the studio in Marilla.
Yeah, and then doing the rep that you're now, you know,
Correct.
doing. Which
Yeah.
is,
I never thought in a million years I'd be here right now.
Rodolfo.
Yeah.
Alfredo.
Yes. Just this past
and
spring.
then you're singing for us, the Duke.
Mm-hmm.
So let's hone in on the Duke just a little bit.
Sure.
Verdi is of course amazing, as I'm sure you'd agree.
Yes.
Here is this irredeemable character.
Absolutely.
Who is a seducer of women, doesn't really care about them at all.
Yep.
He's just, you know, after his own pleasure.
Yeah.
And Verdi gives him some of the most gorgeous music in the opera.
But that's the genius of Verdi.
Yeah. So what's that about?
I think it's just so the audience doesn't hate him so much. I mean, that's the only thing I can think of, because he's just, you know, he's saying this one or that one, it doesn't matter, they're all the same, or women are fickle.
Yeah.
I mean, and it's just dun da da yum ba da, women are fickle. I mean, it's just so ridiculous to me, but it's in the end you see why, because he gets away with, you know, with just basically Gilda's death. Yeah. I mean, he's largely responsible for it, and he walks away just
scot-free.
Yeah, and singing "La Donna Mobile" again.
Yeah. No,
I'm sorry to interrupt, but I think that's why he made it such a big contrast. You know, because from this dark thing, and then hearing this guy that is just so terrible singing this.
I've always found it so fascinating that the tunes that he gets are so beautiful on the superficial level at the top. They are what we would call audience pleasers. They're immediately graspable by the ear.
Right.
And yet he's just such a cad.
I mean, yeah, and La Donna Mobile is one of the most famous arias in the world. I mean, everybody knows it.
Yeah.
You know, even for a novice that comes to the opera for the first time, they're like, "Oh, I've heard that somewhere." You know, so yeah,
it's fascinating.
It is.
My take on it has always been that Verdi wanted the audience to believe that he's lovable,
right,
in a superficial way.
Exactly.
That, you know, when women look at him, they go, "Oh, right."
Yes.
But then they discover, as they dig a little deeper, what kind of guy he
even Magdalena
is.
thinks he actually likes her, even though she is a prostitute.
Yeah. It's just fascinating.
Right.
I've been asking sort of basic technical questions of all my guests this year, and I'm going to talk and we'll end here.
Yeah.
It's always fascinated me having to be in choir in undergrad and grad school, and you know, I always fashioned myself as a tenor.
Of course.
But I was always put in the second tenor.
The second tenor.
The second, because he's a lazy tenor. He can't get anything above an E or an F.
Yeah.
And, you know, I naturally noticed, and maybe some of you folks who have sung before, who are men and have a higher pitched voice, you get to that point where there's a break. And I was never able to get over it or through it.
Yeah.
Here's the basic question. How does a tenor get high notes?
You first have to have a good teacher. I learned from modeling, not you know. But my teacher, David Jones, who actually this Tuesday, he passed away in 2006, but it'll be 13 years. But I will never forget him. This is kind of off the road here, but when I sing, I think about him sitting in the back row because that's where he always was in college, and he's always with me. But he would always model sounds, and I just think I phonetically I just got it, you know. So he's like and I just mimic him back. He called me his parrot because I would always, you know, mimic the sounds he was making. But it's a lot to do with your breath and you know, everything that happens here. You change it here and you shoot it up here. It's a very technical thing, but modifying the vowel also helps. You know, to get up and once because you know Broadway singers, they take their middle up to, you know, I guess it's high C's sometimes.
Wow.
And I'm just like,
yeah,
but
it's hard to listen to.
It's basically, you know,
because
a lot of things working in one motion.
You want a mix up there, right?
Yeah.
Between the middle voice and
mix
the
is the
head
perfect.
voice.
Yes, exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's a mystery to me.
You know, it kind of is to me, and
mystery.
sometimes I'm out there and I'm doing these sounds, and you know, I think focusing on the breath is a lot. Once you do that, you know, some of the other things just kind of happen.
If you have that solid foundation, I've always figured you can do almost anything.
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
What's the next role that you're looking forward to singing that you haven't sung yet that you really, really want to?
And it's happening next month. What? I'm singing Cavaradossi. It'll be my debut, and that is a role that I have been eager to do for many years now.
Tosca.
Yeah. And that'll be in North Carolina.
Yeah.
And it's the perfect place to test something out,
Yeah,
and
sure.
it's a great company. But it's only a couple performances, so I can kind of test it out and see if that's something that I want to do, that I can do.
And pace yourself.
Exactly. Exactly.
Act 2.
Yes,
that's the
thing. But I mean, it's really the opera that got me interested in opera.
You know, for so many of us, it was for me too.
Yeah.
It just grabbed me.
Oh, it's so beautiful.
It was a Collis recording.
Uh-huh.
But it wasn't the one.
Oh.
It wasn't the one from 1955. Right. It was the later one.
Okay.
Which I believe Carlo Bergonzi is the tenor in it.
Well, I can't go wrong with that.
Yeah. And Gobi again is as Scarpia and Collis singing just before she quit, and she really needed to. But it's so gripping.
Yeah.
You know, and I think you probably have to be so careful in approaching that role in terms of
absolutely,
pacing it, because you could just lose it in Act 1.
I'm going to coach the snot out of it.
Well,
sorry.
I wish you all the best of luck.
I appreciate it.
We're so looking forward to seeing you as the Duke. Come Saturday, we open up. So
awesome. Thank you very much. I really enjoyed it.
Thank you.
All right.